Joining us this morning from Washington is Arizona senior U.S. Senator Mark Kelly. Good morning, Senator. Thanks for being with us. We thought we'd start with legislation that's pending in your chamber, the Senate.
Senator Elon Musk describes the big, beautiful bill as a disgusting abomination and told House members who passed it, you know you did wrong. You're not the biggest Musk fan, and it's probably not for the same reasons, but do you agree with him that this bill is an abomination?
Well, I think a blind squirrel can find a nut every so often, and I think that's the case here with Elon. So we do agree. I mean, abomination. It's bad policy. It cuts an enormous amount of money out of Medicaid, so people will lose their health care. Kids, seniors, even pregnant moms, and the thing is, it's all so we can continue to give a big tax cut to the wealthiest Americans, to billionaires. So this is just bad policy. It also takes $30 billion a year out of food assistance, that a lot of that food assistance goes to kids. So kids are going to be hungry if this legislation passes in its current form.
If there weren't the tax cuts, a continuation of some of the tax cuts and maybe even some new tax cuts in there, would you be a little more in favor of this bill? Because something has to be cut at some point, right? We're facing a giant national debt, and this, of course, also creates deficits.
Yeah, I mean, the debt is a big concern of mine, and this adds $3 trillion to the debt over 10 years. So there are cuts to Medicaid. And the reason they're cutting Medicaid is so it doesn't even add more money to the debt. And it's all in the justification to continue to provide a tax cut for the wealthiest Americans. I think it's something like 65% of the cuts goes to the top 10%. Now, I am all for cutting taxes for working class and middle class people. We should not be raising their taxes. But billionaires can pay some more and still be billionaires. The math on this is not hard. So I think this is bad policy. I think it's going to backfire on these people. But the worst part about it is the people that I have met across the state who, just have such compelling stories about how they rely on Medicaid and they rely on SNAP to feed their kids. And if these programs go away, it's going to hurt a lot of Arizonans.
Arizona's senior U.S. Senator Mark Kelly is with us here, and I wanted to jump to tariffs because that's obviously a topic we're talking about today. You've said before that tariffs should be used to fight unfair trade practices, but judiciously, something we'd imagine you don't feel President Trump has done. So if he gets some great trade deals done, will you think that they're worth it?
Well, it depends on what the deal is, right? I mean, we've got tariffs being put on, taken off, raised, lowered. Aluminum and steel now another 50%. Hey, I'm going to a meeting right now with some Ukrainian government leadership, Yermak, who is the head of the president's office, and others. And one of the discussions that we will have internally after this meeting is legislation to put more tariffs on the Russians to compel them to end this conflict, this illegal invasion. So tariffs can be rather targeted and for specific purposes, but what the president has done here is quite erratic, and ultimately, this is going to cost, taxpayers, cost families more money for the things that they rely on.
And by the way, do you feel like maybe Chinese tariffs should be the exception? I mean, they are definitely not our ally. They have done a lot of underhanded things to us, including trade practices. Would you be okay with seeing Chinese tariffs staying in place, Senator?
Yeah, Joe, it depends on what it is. But blanket tariffs usually don't help us. Yeah, sure, maybe over a long period of time we'd be able to bring some specific, some sort of manufacturing back. But we benefit from buying cheap goods in other countries, China included. They buy jet engines from us. We buy T-shirts from Vietnam. This whole idea that that trade needs to be balanced between every single country is not really thought out well, right? Think about this for a second. We are a very wealthy nation. There's no world where Vietnam is going to buy the same amount of stuff from us as we buy from them. We're always going to buy more. So to levy tariffs on Vietnam because they buy less than us, it just costs the American taxpayer more money. But on China, you're right. China is a adversary. I'm concerned about conflict in the Western Pacific. The trade imbalance with China is too big. We should look at specific industries and how do we, how do we get that balance more in our favor? But, tariffs on China above 100% is just going to cost the American people more money.
All right. Our conversation with Senator Mark Kelly continues. Wanted to ask you about this, Senator. The State Department has revoked the visas of the family of Mohammed Sullivan, who is the alleged attacker in Boulder. And Homeland Security says it has arrested them for expedited removal, his whole family. So do you think this is going too far, or is it what needs to be done to protect Americans from domestic terrorism?
Well, it's the first time hearing of that piece of this. I was, following this story, yesterday. Seems to me to be domestic terrorist by him. He has committed a very serious crime. He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Does that extend to his family members? Is that in accordance with due process laws we have in our country? That's unclear to me. So I would have to take a close look. This administration, it appears, often oversteps on these issues of migration and immigration. What we're experiencing in Arizona right now, where ICE can be focused on criminals and going after criminals across the country and deporting people that have committed crimes. Instead, they're focused on folks that are showing up for their court date, trying to comply with the set of rules that have been, handed to them as they have come to our country. I just don't think that's the way we should be using the resources that we have.
Senator Kelly, I'm not telling you this. You're a Navy veteran. What is your reaction to Defense Secretary Hegseth announcing that they're going to remove Harvey Milk's name from that Navy oiler ship that bears his name?
Well, I mean, it seems like the Secretary of Defense is just focused on the wrong things. I mean, bathrooms and names, and we've got such serious issues that DOD is facing. We've got to be more prepared, for conflicts in Europe, in the Western Pacific. I'm concerned as China continues to innovate. They are building longer range surface-to-air missile systems and air-to-air missile systems and space systems. And we need our entire Department of Defense to focus on the things that matter. The name of a ship, I don't really think that matters.
Once again, we are talking with U.S. Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. I wanted to circle back to our first topic, Senator, real quickly, and ask if you have talked to any Republican senators who are considering breaking with President Trump now that Elon Musk has said that big, beautiful bill is a disgusting abomination. Have you had any conversations with Republicans who say that they're not going to vote for this in the Senate?
Well, I was talking to one of my Republican colleagues as I was walking to my office 15 minutes ago about the stuff that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, so renewable energy tax credits in this bill. I'm not going to say who it was because it was a private conversation, but he has concerns that I do that if all these tax incentives go away, we're going to have a harder time adding energy to the grid as we have been over the last few years. 90% of what we add to the grid has been solar, wind, and hydroelectric. It's not oil and gas. And the wait for a two-cycle gas generator for a power plant, gas turbine, is like 4 years right now. So you can't make up the energy that we need with oil and gas, and they get that. It would also mean in his state, like in Arizona, a massive loss of jobs if the provisions that they have in the bill right now stay as they are, which means you have 60 days to start a project. If it doesn't start, it's not going to get the tax incentives that were in the Inflation Reduction Act. And what we put in that legislation has caused in states like Arizona and Florida and other states, even states with wind, a tremendous amount of jobs, but also the energy that we need to continue to innovate with technology like artificial intelligence. We're expected to get a lot of data centers moving to Arizona to support AI. That means a lot of good paying construction jobs, some of their jobs after things are built. But if we don't, if they roll back what was in the Inflation Reduction Act completely, a lot of those jobs are going to go away, and energy prices are going to go up for Arizonans and people across the country.
Arizona's senior U.S. Senator Mark Kelly joining us here on Arizona's Morning News. Went through a range of topics there.
Thanks for watching Arizona's Morning News. Click to watch more from KTAR News and hit the button in the middle to subscribe.